morning, everybody. Keith Engle here on this really beautiful Easter Sunday morning here in upstate New York. It can be a little chilly, but the sun's out, makes it much warmer. Hope you all are having a good weekend. It's been kind of nice up here, much nicer than it's been in Augusta, Georgia, which we'll talk about for a few minutes here this morning. But I want to welcome everybody and hope you're having a good holiday weekend if it's a holiday that you celebrate. If it's not, I hope you're having a good weekend in any event. We'll get into a lot of stuff today. We're live, by the way, on Northeast Streaming Sports, simulcasting on Let's Talk Sports. Also, of course, on the TGI Sports Talk page. You can comment. You can like and follow from any of those places. Please get to TGI Sports Talk if you haven't to like and follow and share the show. We'll get into some Major League Baseball talk today. Who's off to fast starts? And, does it matter? Should we really worry about any of these teams, whether it's good or whether it's bad? A little bit about the Yankees injury infestation growing. We'll look at the early power ratings. I'll give my comments a little bit on that maybe and talk about the new rules a little bit. The NFL, we'll look at some draft buzz. We'll talk about Arron Rodgers, of course, Bill Belichick, and Mac Jones. We'll talk about the draft. We'll go through some mock drafts maybe. NBA, we'll look at the playoff preview potentially, and we'll talk a little Masters here probably as we get off a little bit here in the early part of the show. I don't know who Drew will be with us talk Major League Baseball today because I believe he's traveling. Alan's here. Been a minute. I know you haven't been here in a while, Alan. Where you been? I know you're busy with some shows of your own, but it's good to have you. We'll get into baseball first today because I know Alan. I don't know how Alan. Oh, do you have to buzz out of here at some point, Alan? Because we'll talk baseball early. Good morning, Rick. Good to have you with us. Again, not sure if we'll have Drew with us this morning because he is traveling. I'm going to guess not. But we'll get into all those topics and yours as well. Alan's, obviously, since we've introduced Alan to the world of podcasting, he's doing more shows than almost anybody I know, for crying out loud. Outside of Dan Harris, I guess. What's he got here? Oh, you did your show already this morning. Good. I hope you'll be around for a little bit. We'll probably get into baseball to get started. I do want to talk about the Masters and the weather out there. We'll talk about it at some point during the show. The weather's been the big story. Cold, rainy, postponements 2 days in a row. Tiger withdraws today. If you watch the weather Friday, the wind blew down two huge trees, which it also did in my backyard this week, by the way. And I got to clean that up before we can ever think about listing this place. But it was dangerous. If you watch this, I don't know if you saw the clips of this. These trees came down, and it's possible if the rain hadn't kept maybe the spectators down. I don't remember which hole it was and how the spectators usually are assembled there. It could have been a disaster. These were some huge trees that came tumbling right down, and fortunately nobody got hurt. It's been an interesting tournament. We'll take a look at it at some point. But I think we will get started. I did want to get, we're going into the NHL playoffs, and I've got to get Jim Bering in here next week because we haven't had him on. We weren't able to hook up a couple of weeks, and then I've been so busy Fridays, Saturdays. I just haven't, it's not an excuse. Again, I'm a big believer. When you say you're too busy to do something, you're full of crap because everybody's got time to do what's important to them. So I shouldn't blame it on, my own lack of time. I've got to it's procrastination more than anything else. I got to reach out to Jim so we can get a little update on the NHL playoffs, and we'll probably be bringing him in weekly through those playoffs, or at least when he can make it. So lots of news to kind of look at. And what do you got here, Rick? Watching the games, mostly Yankees, and I guess I have to disagree with your take on the speed of the game. Why? Listen, the average game time is, again, maybe not Yankee games because Yankee games tend to be slower. But one thing I can't argue, and again, my take on the rules, I was against all of these things. I didn't think we needed a pitch clock, but the pitch clock has sped up the game by about 20 minutes, the average game. Again, if you focus on one team or a couple of games, we can probably say anything. And again, it's a small window of information in any event. Unless you're looking at every game, then you've got a pretty good model so far to look at. But so far, the pitch clock has done what it was supposed to do. I mean, it's probably, of the rules, the only one I'm backing off my feeling even a little bit is the pitch clock. And I just hope, I talked about it in my, I think on the Major League Baseball show the other day, that the pitch clock, Drew as well is with us this morning. Good morning, Drew. Yeah, the stolen bases I'm not happy about because it's, and we'll get more into it, but I'll give you my comment, Drew, just in case you want to fire something back at me. Stolen bases, again, it's totally a manufactured result. It's artificially upgraded because if I can only throw over twice, once I've done that, I got a free stolen base. I could steal second base if I knew you couldn't throw over. That's probably an exaggeration. That, and by the way, the base paths are also 4.5 inches closer than they've ever been in the history of the game. And please don't tell me that doesn't make a difference because look at how many close plays there are on every base, including steals from second base, whatever. So that one I'm totally against, and still, I believe the stat I had the other day was at that point there was like 101 stolen bases as compared to 61 at the same time last year. But anyway, to get back to Rick's point, some games are still going to drag, Rick. But if I'm gonna say okay, I'll change my tune on one rule, it would be the pitch clock. Now there'll be unintended consequences of that at some point. Oh, I started to say in my Major League Update Friday, I talked a lot about what I'm worried about is later in the season, in the playoffs, in the World Series, some very dramatic moments that, well, I looked at a couple in history that. And the one I focused on was Kirk Gibson's at bat in the '88 World Series. You could never have had that type of drama build up the way you did in that game and that at bat. I mean, that at bat took, I don't know, like 12 minutes because he had to get out and gather himself each time because he was so beat up. And you're going to lose moments like that. So the pitch clock, I'm okay with. I mean, again, if we look at a couple of games, the Yankee games are always going to be longer than everybody else's just because of, I don't know. Where do we get to? Well, Boston stinks, so maybe it won't be that way. The stolen bases, yes. I'm glad you're with us today, by the way, Drew. I said at the top I didn't know if you'd be with us because I thought you were traveling. I'm not sure. Not sure of your logistics, but I'm glad you made it. So anyway, we can talk about all of that as we go forward here. As we talk about Major League Baseball, let me get my banner up here for Major League Baseball, and everybody will know what we're talking about when they join us. We'll look at some of the quicker starts, what's real, what's an illusion. What's real after 7 or 8 games, or 9 games maybe at this point. I do want to look at I'll go through the early power ratings, and we'll see if I agree with most of them. That will also go along with, what's real or what's an illusion. And there were new rules. If my opinion has changed, not a lot. Pitch clock has, again, it's a number I can't argue with a whole lot. The speed of the game overall, Rick. I've watched a couple of Yankee games that did drag as well, but there was also a Yankee game this past week I think was over, I want to say, like 9:45, 2 hours and 40 minutes, whatever. So, again, but the stolen bases, I think it's, I understand. Again, continue to improve the offense. That's what we want to do. We want, and the shift. And I'll sound like a broken record, but I'm going to keep saying this until I'm dead in the ground. Baseball, you don't need to make rules to artificially improve players' performance. How about we coach the players up to play the game the way it was meant to be played? How about that? Ridiculous. Anyway, let's get into some of the faster starts. And Yankee, Mets have won a couple in a row now, but some big surprises, obviously. I lost my standings page here. What happened? Where'd it go? I think I kind of went somewhere else earlier when I was on with Mac and Jack. There we go. Biggest surprise, maybe, Rays always find a way to win, right? 8-0. What a great start. Best start in quite some time. I saw this. I saw this stat. Where's that stat? Best start in 20 years in Major League Baseball. I think the record, if I'm not mistaken, is 12-0. So they're getting close to it. The pitching's been good. Wander Franco's been good. Siri's been good. Now Siri's out. I'm probably saying his name wrong, I'm sure. Drew. Which will hurt them because he's playing very well. And I loved that trade when they picked him up last year. And I still haven't figured out. I cannot remember where they got him from. But they're off to a nice start for sure in the East. We'll jump around a little bit now, go division by division. The Twins off to a nice start. I believe Drew picked them. Again, I can't find my damn list. My notes from, I know I've got them here somewhere. My notes from our preview show. But the Twins off to a nice start. Angels surprisingly in first place after the Rangers, Alan, got off to a good start. I'm sure your comment, I see it there. I'll get to it. Might have something to do with that. The Braves now have lost 2 in a row after a 6-1 start, which is keeping the Mets close. Again, it's early. Philly was looking bad, 1-5, but they've kind of rebounded with a couple wins in a row. One of my surprises for the year, the Brewers leading the surprising Pirates, which will not last, by the way. This team will win 60 games. The Cubs over 500. Cardinals are under 500. And the Diamondbacks, who were one of my sleepers for this year. I didn't have them to, contending or getting in, but moving towards contention next year, are playing well. And we'll dive more into this as we go forward. Just a couple things to kind of start off the conversation. The pitcher was not allowed to throw to first only 2 times per game. Is going to, I agree. Because here's the thing. And again, this takes away to me, especially again, regular season games. Is there that much drama when you're playing 162 games? Is there that much drama from game to game about a matchup in the ninth? And you get some, but it's not built up the way it is in the playoffs or especially the World Series. I mentioned the pitch clock taking away from a moment like the Kirk Gibson home run against the A's in '88, which again took forever that at bat. It took him forever to get to the plate. At every bat, he had to kind of gather himself. You wouldn't see that. You'll see the same thing here, Kenny, because there were times where you'd get, a great base stealer on, and now you've got a cat and mouse game between the pitcher, the base runner, and the catcher, obviously. And you'd throw over, and you wouldn't give, good guys with good pickoff moves don't use their good pickoff move the first couple of times they throw over. And does the game slow down at that point? Yes. But at that point in the game, you want it to slow down. And by the way, the games I'm talking about, Louis Tiant challenging Joe Morgan in '75, or they had a lot of speed on that Reds team, or Munson against Munson or whatever pitcher against Davey Lopes in '77, '78. You're going to lose some of those moments because now I can throw once. Because once I've thrown once, I'm still kind of hamstrung because if I throw a second time, the guy's stealing second base. Totally changes the dynamic of the game. And let's not forget, we focus a lot on this 2 times per runner, which, again, is a huge deal. But let's not forget the distance between, again, 90 feet between bases is a number that everybody knows who knows anything about baseball. But not anymore. Now it's 85.5 feet, right? Is that math right? Again, Perth is my school of record. So, and if you don't think it makes a difference, go watch some tape. Did I see the game between Chattanooga and Rocket City that ended with Chattanooga getting so hot and still scoring, getting no hits? Oh, no hit and still scoring 7 runs. I did not see that. Did that come up in my little stories here or not? I'll take a look at it quickly. No, I guess I don't. There it is. Angels of Philly. Is that the one? Yeah. Angels double A team, Rocket City Trash Pandas. Great name, huh? allowed one hit and a double hitter and only got a split. 3 pitchers combined on a 7-inning no-hitter for the Trash Pandas, only to lose 7-5 to the Chattanooga Lookouts, Cincinnati's farm club, in the Saturday opener after wildness caused a 7-run top of the ninth. What the heck? They walked 5 guys, hit 4 batters, and threw a run-scoring wild pitch in the 7th inning. I'm guessing none of these guys are making the major leagues. Oh, Alan, thanks for pointing that out to me. I missed that in my stories this morning. Great job. I got Siri's name right. Excellent. Now, I don't know what's Siri on Apple, right? On the iPhones, I don't have an iPhone. I have a Droid. If you have an iPhone and you're a Tampa Bay fan, your phone's got to be, your phone's got to be going off all the time. If you're rooting for Siri. Now, he's out for the Rays, so that'll hurt them a little bit, but he's off to a great start. Where'd he come from, Drew? I cannot remember. I wanted to say the Rangers, but that doesn't seem to make sense to me. Tampa, I don't remember them making a trade last year. Tampa. It's not coming to me where he came from. Elastic is no longer associated with the Broncos.
I don't have an answer.
I just called Alexa. Alexa, stop. Now I don't know why. Oh, because I said elastic. She thought I said Alexa. Yeah, I'm missing the reference there, Kenny. We're going to get into some NFL too in a bit. We'll talk some draft. Here's mine since I haven't been here. AOS, Astros. Oh, Alan's picks. Okay, Alan's picks. So I had the Astros and the Mariners in the playoffs in the West. Alan's got the Astros and, well, I guess he didn't pick his wild card. So he's got the Astros. Thank you for not picking Texas. Guardians, Rays. I don't have them even in the playoffs now. I'm not. Again, 8 games is not an indicator. Listen, I remember when the Brewers won 11 straight to start a season and didn't make the playoffs. They finished with about 84 wins. The Dodgers, I do have the Padres if the chemistry doesn't implode. The Central, I have the Brewers. Drew did have the Cards. I know that. In the East, I have the Braves. I believe we both had the Braves. And I've got the Astros and Braves matching off in a rematch, I should say, from 2 years ago. And I do have the Astros winning it all again. We got that. Drew, what do you got? May result in more catchers with better releases and arms. Maybe. That's not the intended release, but I know all of these will have unintended consequences and improvements. Again, the pitch clock I'm starting to come around on only because once the pitchers and the hitters, and I guess the base runners, as we found out, get accustomed to it, it should just become, the rhythm of the game. And it shouldn't even come into play. But I'm worried about those moments late in the year where you're going to, again, Drew, to your point, it may result in that. But why couldn't it result in that without doing this? You should have been teaching these guys these mechanics all along. You shouldn't have to put rules in to make players' performance better. Same with the shift. Oh, it's going to help Corey Seager. Well, I think he's hitting about 100 right now. At least he was the other day. He was one of the guys who was supposed to help the most. Why do we need to put a rule in to help a player when a coach's job is to help the player? And the main thing you do in baseball on offense is hit the ball where players are not. Artificially changing performance is not the way to improve the game. I'm not going to stop my mantra here. Great Pumpkin was at the Mets game. If we're talking about, I'm not sure who you're referring to. I know Carlos was at Friday's game. Does this rule cover the other bases as well? Yes, every base. Every base. Oh, if he throws to the plate. No, I mean, the plate's, you're only going to throw to the plate. Well, I guess if he steps off, here's the thing, Kenny, it's not just a throw. If you step off the rubber, that is one attempt. You know how you often see a guy step off and never do anything? That's an attempt. It's not just a throw. So if a guy steps off and throws home for whatever reason, well, then yeah. and it does affect every base. And it's not just the throws, as I said. Oh, Elway. Yes, Elway has moved on from the Denver Broncos, which we'll talk a little bit about in the when we get to the NFL for sure. I mean, again, Elway did some very good things there. I mean, he didn't win any championships as a management figure, president, GM, whatever his titles all were, without Peyton Manning, but he did win. So Houston, it was Houston. Okay, I had Houston in my head, and I'm like, what? Why would they have traded this kid to Tampa Bay? But they're loaded. Their minor leagues are loaded. Thank you, Alan. Backs up Drew's. I had that in my head, and I just, for whatever reason, it didn't feel right. That's what I've said from the beginning. Well, I did say Rangers. I think I thought the Rangers at some point too. Maybe I never said. Maybe I never said the Astros. Wild cards. I know you're going to pick the Rangers. There's no way, Alan. I'll tell you right now. Regardless of the standings today, and I don't know how much the Mariners have improved since they're 4-5. When I looked on Friday, did the update, they were 2-5. They're not finishing ahead of the Mariners. Mariners are a really good team. Mariners may very well push the Astros. So if you want a wild card, you better finish with a lot of wins and not expected to get it at the expense of the Mariners. Just one man's opinion. The Orioles, I have just missing. I had Toronto winning the East and Yankees getting the wild card. The Padres, Mets, Phillies. Phillies, I do not have getting in at all. Brewers, yeah, I think I had a 7 game. I don't know if we picked games. Well, is he at 276 the other day? So he must have had a pretty good weekend because the other day he was hitting about 100 points less than that. Let me look at the and again, I said this the other day. We'll stay on the Rangers for just a second because Alan's with us. We're not going to spend the entire baseball time on this, but just to touch on this. And I touched on this the other day when they were off on their 4-2 start, by the way. So Seager has jumped a lot. I'm pretty sure on Friday he was about 160 or something like that. Here's the thing. They're off to a good start. You know what their biggest problem was last year on offense? And I've said this a bunch of times. Their on-base percentage is awful. It's still 308 as we start. Even with all the improvements, their pitching's been okay, but is their pitching going to hold up? Seager's starting to get together on offense. We'll talk about their pitching in a second. Garcia's fallen off since I looked at this on Friday. Again, a couple of games change things a whole lot right now, right? But again, I'm going to focus on this on-base percentage. You remember when they start to fall out of the race here, Alan, and it's going to be because of two things. The pitching staff will not be nearly as good as you think it will be, and others think it will be. Not just you. Obviously, there are some pundits that think the Rangers will be better. I'm not one of them. And the on-base percentage of this offense, that's going to hurt you. What do you got, Drew? Here's a trend that he's found obnoxious. Hitters who can hit both right-handed hitters who can hit both-handed. Oh, right and left-handed pitchers, sorry. I was having trouble reading that. Are still benched regardless. Lefty hitter benched. Yeah, you know what? That's because, again, and this has been a trend. This has been going on a while, right? This has been going on, gosh, I want to say since the late 80s A's. Pitching specialists. That's when relief pitching and pitching 6 guys a game, started to become a norm. But over managing and benching guys who can hit both ways, just to platoon for no obvious reason. Now, there are situations, yes, but not in the situation Drew's talking about. If I can hit both ways, why are you benching me against, if a lefty who can hit a lefty, then leave me in a game. And Order Easy. I can never say that guy's name either. What is it with me? Is it the Perth education or just my mind just lazy? I think that's what it is, probably. Looking at the Rangers, come on, you. Damn it. I hope they didn't lose. Okay, there we go. I want to look at their pitching real quick. Now, they've gotten off. Valdi's been okay. Martin Perez has been okay. Good even. DeGrom's been terrible through 2 starts. He'll be all right, but he's going to get hurt. Dunning was really good in his first start. John Gray was good. He'll get hurt, though. Again, I don't trust the bullpen. By the way, how's Andrew Haney doing through a couple of games or a couple of innings? I know it's 1 start. 7 hits, 7 earned runs, 2 home runs, 2 walks, an ERA of 23, and a whip of 3.38. It doesn't get any worse than that. I've said forever, why would anybody expect this guy to provide anything? How this guy was an upgrade over anybody else they had is it speaks really bad of who they were replacing. But Andrew Haney is a guy that I focused on a lot. Let's go through, let me go division by division here quickly. So, Drew, you can kind of put your comments up. Any comments, guys. This is a stream of consciousness, anything. And we can jump off if we have to the NFL. We will jump off to the NFL right after this. We'll talk some news and notes around the league, including Elway leaving and some draft information. I saw some interesting reports, by the way, regarding the Patriots, and I'm not happy with them. So we talked about the Rays. Yankees are off to a pretty good start, 5-3. Listen, you win 5 out of every 8 games, you're going to be okay. Donaldson's out. Gives the Yankees a chance to play Glaber every day at second base and not DH him. He's off to a great start. Maybe it will be for trade bait purposes because, again, they're going to have to make a deal here, probably either to bolster the pitching staff, the starting pitching, or improve left field / third base. But now Torres gets a chance to play second every day. DJ can play third most days. Cabrera can play left field or third base. And by the way, they brought up Brito, I think, when they put Donaldson on the DL, and he pitched he's not going to go deep into games, but he pitched really well for the second time this year. They brought him up after they'd sent him down after his original start. The Blue Jays 5-4. I did, and Drew, I think, strongly disagreed with me. I did say that I thought Schneider would be the first manager fired when the Blue Jays got off to a struggling start, sometime mid to late May. I think Donnie Baseball will be the manager of this team. I really do. And the Red Sox surprising at 4-4. I do think this will be a really bad team before it's all out, but they're surprising early on, 4-4. And the Orioles, who will be a tough out everywhere, at 4-4 as well. Red Sox hanging in 4 now. Again, I just don't think there's enough talent all over this roster to continue to even play 500 baseball. I don't think. Going to the Central, as Drew's already moved to. Minnesota, Cleveland, Chicago, shocking. I'm not sure if that's sarcasm or not. I mean, we expected the Twins and Guardians to be at the top of this division. I would expect it to be very close. White Sox, I think, Drew, again, without my notes, I do think you thought the White Sox would be better than I do. I wouldn't be surprised if this team finished at or below 500. Pitching staff is not deep enough. They've got some guys plugged in to have stopgaps like Elvis Andrews at second base, and Tim Anderson's going to get hurt. They got some defensive challenges around the diamond a little bit. This is not going to be a great division, and no surprise that the Royals and the Tigers are stinking it up right now. So, not a lot of big surprises. I do think the Guardians will outlast the Twins, but I did pick the Twins to make the playoffs as well. I thought so. It's hard, when I'm talking to you, Drew, your sarcasm is, don't take this the wrong way. Your sarcasm is easily recognizable, as I'm sure my own is. But when you're reading, it's not quite as easy, unfortunately. I might start bringing you on this show on Sundays, Drew, when you're available to do a little baseball talk. We might consider doing that. You got such a good setup now. We'll have to talk about that as we go through the baseball season, especially as things heat up here a little bit. Out west, the Angels surprising a little bit at 5-3. The Rangers 4-4. Again, we just went through their. Again, Alan, I'm proud of you by sticking by your team and being so optimistic. I would much prefer you had one team instead of two, but that's just me. But I just don't think this team is built to win. I just don't think it's that well put together. You got some good players. You got some good players outside of Sager and Simeon. I like Lowe. I think Garcia's got some potential, but he's got to get on base more. All of these guys have to get on base more. I'm going to tell you again, your pitching staff and that on-base percentage will be your downfall. Mariners off to a tough start, but they're playing better now, 2 wins in a row. I still think this team is too good not to challenge the Astros. But the Astros, one of the interesting teams. Now, should we be worried about any of this? The Astros 3-6. I'm not getting worried after 9 games. We get to 20 games and they're, whatever. 14-20. Well, maybe it's time to start wondering. And the A's, I still think the A's could be on their way to 115 or 20 losses. So is there anything, what's an illusion here? I think the Rays, obviously they're not going to win 162 games. So they're not going undefeated. I'm safely going to say that. And I do think it's an illusion. I'm not sure that they can continue that pace through the year. We'll see. They stay healthy. They got some kids that are good. If Franco stays healthy, Siri gets back and stays healthy, maybe they got enough offense. I like some of their pitchers. Drew loves Springer. I love McClanahan. They're at the good front too. So I think, I still think they'll finish 4th. I've got the Orioles finish ahead of them. I don't think the Central, there's anything really to get excited about. The Angels, I think, are better than last year. I do not think they'll win this division, obviously. That's an illusion. The Rangers 500 start, I think, is an illusion. And I think the Mariners and Astros bad start is an illusion. The A's are perfectly positioned where they are. What do you got here? Oh, in the Central, that's the order you had. I think it is the order, yeah. I think you had the White Sox doing better than I did, though. I think as far as win-wise. I got to find my I was looking for my notes for my Major League Update the other day, and I didn't have them. I must have put them somewhere else. If I toss them again, I'm going to beat myself in the head. I'll have to watch the whole damn show over to. Not that it's bad to watch over, but Houston lagging for now. Yeah, I think they'll be okay. A little early, as I said, Drew. If we get to 20, 25, 30 games, we get to Memorial Day, especially if these teams still, lagging under 500. Well, hey, maybe the Rangers come into play. But Seattle, I think, is a team that will push this team. Thanks, Alan. I'm not sure where that comes from. Jung is performing well. I actually just picked him up the last night for the fantasy team. I'm having a hard time getting into the daily routine, man. I have been so busy. And again, here I go again. I've been so busy with work and some other stuff on a personal level. And I just keep forgetting to go and there's early games more often than not now. And I forget to go look at my lineup. I used to do it every morning. And I got to get into the routine. I've probably forfeited a bunch. And again, I'll say this one more time. I strongly believe, I hate it when people say, and I hate it when I do it, which I just did, that I don't have time. I haven't had time. Because every single person, by the way, if you want to take one thing away from today's show, every single person's got time to do the things that are important to them. I have to make that more of a priority. Whatever it is, if you don't see people, please don't tell them, sorry, I've been so busy. Nobody's that busy. You have time for everything that's important to you in your life. Oh, sorry, I missed your comment here, Kenny. The whole U.S. is expected to be hit with 4 inches of snow, and baseball will be canceled for the season. Is that 4 feet of snow? Well, 4 feet of snow. Well, unless you're predicting a new ice age, Kenny, even if that were to happen, it would all melt away. So we would be playing baseball at another point. Now, you could be predicting an ice age. I don't know. Shane, is it Shane? That's Shane. Sean, that's Sean. Sean Spencer, good to have you with us, Sean. I think Sean's a new viewer. Welcome. I hope you'll like and follow the show and invite your friends if you like what you see. Listen, as far as Baltimore goes, Sean, I would definitely refer to our Major League Baseball preview. Go back and look through the videos from a couple of weeks ago. Drew Ehrlich and I did our Major League Baseball preview. But to mention the Orioles a little bit, I still like them. I think they'll finish 84, 85 wins, but just short of a playoff spot. I think they finish ahead of the Rays, but probably maybe 10 games behind the Yankees and the Blue Jays in whichever order they finish. I did like the Rays to win. I think this team, from a position standpoint, is getting very good. I think Henderson may very well win the Rookie of the Year. Rauschman is already one of the best catchers in baseball, in my mind. You got some other good kids. Cedric Mullins, one of the most underrated players in the game, in my mind. And the pitching staff will probably be the Orioles' kryptonite. Just my guess. Now, guys could step up. We'll see. So, again, matching or exceeding last year's win total is certainly not beyond the realm of possibility. They're not sneaking up. One issue they have this year, remember, Sean, is they're not sneaking up on anybody. Everybody knows the Orioles are getting better. So we'll see. Again, there's going to be a surprise every year, and the Orioles could very well be that team. I just don't see it right now. But I'm glad you joined us, Sean, and please continue to comment. You've got topics and comments you want to bring up. We'll actually I love on this show specifically, and everybody here can attest to it. You guys are my co-hosts on this show for sure, and all my especially this show, my college basketball show. Not the interview shows because I record them ahead, but I want the audience to participate. And this group on Sundays is really good at that, and I do encourage it. Tigers make the cut, then withdraws. He was laboring around yesterday. If you saw him, even Friday. And maybe you're right, Kenny. Maybe these guys need to. Here's the thing, too. I thought I read somewhere that Tiger had got an exemption to use a cart. We had a controversy years ago, if you remember. I think the golfer's name was Tracy Martin, if I'm not mistaken. He had one bum leg. He was a young kid, and he got an exemption to use a cart, and there was a lot of uproar on the PGA Tour. And I don't disagree. And I'm not sure if I'm even right about this story. And it could have been maybe when he went to the senior tour in a few years, whatever. But Tiger, maybe they need to pass a physical. And, Tiger does withdraw a lot when he's not playing well. But watching him, even Thursday and Friday, even when he played holes well, he was laboring around that golf course. And I'm not a guy to make excuses for Tiger, But the fact that he's out there is kind of miraculous to begin with. I'm not willing to count the guy out. I've counted him out before, and he won a Masters 2 years ago, 2020, when I thought he had no shot to ever win a major again. And the guy proved me wrong. So we'll talk a little Masters before we're done here today. You need more help in fantasy. I do. I need to pay attention to the fracking thing is what I need to do. Maybe I should look at it right now while we're doing the show. Where am I? You're probably still kicking my ass. Holy crap. It's funny, while we were doing the preview show, I was telling us we should stop the season while I was ahead of you. I need to pay attention to what the hell's going on, that's for sure. Jung is pronounced young. Whatever. It's German? All right. Well, thank you, Drew. I'll probably forget that about 100 times before I remember, but I did get Volpe right after 1,000 pronunciations wrong. Orioles need to beef up their pitching to be in contention. Certainly agree, as my comments attest, and probably Sean agrees too. I see he's got a couple comments coming up here. Kenny says the Orioles will win it all. Sean, there you go. You got a benefactor here in the show this morning, so stick with it. Kenny can also hook you up with some other stuff too besides baseball advice. Absolutely. I've watched before, just haven't commented yet. I'm glad you've been here watching. Feel free to comment anytime. You live in northern VA, Virginia, and I'm a lifelong O's fan, as you should be. How many years? And I listen. It's hard to say right now. I got to see as their pitching. If their pitching progresses, they've got some young pitchers, from what I understand, in the organization. And listen, with free agency and the way things are today, they could improve. This team could be good enough to contend next year if their pitchers make continued progress. Only thing going to hold them back right now, and they can hold on to that young talent. I like the team. I loved your college basketball show, but it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch, but it's hard to watch. I loved it, but it's hard to watch. I'm hoping time-wise it's hard to watch. A Tar Heel fan and kind of fell off on watching the tournament, LOL. Our fall from grace was rough to watch. Oh, I see. So it's hard to watch because your team is irrelevant at the moment. Listen, this is a stream of consciousness show, so we'll jump off for a second to address Sean's comment here. The Tar Heels are a bit irrelevant now. A lot of the Blue Bloods were irrelevant this year. Kentucky, I mean, they made the tournament, but Duke, North Carolina. Duke played well at the end of the year, which has got to kill you, I'm sure, Sean. But again, they went out meekly against Tennessee, I thought, in the tournament. I'm not sold on Hubert Davis yet. And we'll certainly maybe talk a little bit of college basketball as we go forward. It gets a little harder as we have an off season. We're going to get more into college baseball during the college sports huddle. We may go to 2 days a month. I'm not even sure yet. 2 Wednesdays a month, because there's just not enough to talk about week to week. Or we may get together and, do an hour, 45 minutes rather than an hour. But Sean, I'm really glad you joined us. And I do hope you'll like and share and invite your friends. It's easy to invite, guys. I haven't gone through the process with you, but it's very easy to invite people. Just look up at your ribbon. You're going to see 3 dots up there near the top of your profile page, and you click it and you can invite. That's actually when you're on the TGI Sports Talk page. Sorry, on the ribbon, you'll see 3 dots. If you hit it, one of the drop down options is invite your friends. Drew's comment: 2 to 3 years to contend, depending on the moves of other teams. Again, it could be 2 or 3 years. The thing is, the way baseball is today, that time frame could be moved up very easily if they decide to get more active in free agency per se, or other teams fall backwards. Again, the thing is, I don't see the Blue Jays or Yankees going away anytime soon. So it's going to be tough for them to contend for the division in the time frame I said. I can see them contending for a wild card, because I could see that happening this year if everything broke right. I've got them on the cusp of that last wild card. Not a fan of the Montreal Expos, aka Nationals, aka Senators. Well, they're not really the Senators. I mean, the Senators were the last team in Washington, of course, but not related to this organization at all. But listen, this team's playing like the Washington Senators played, and probably will for a while. But I think Baltimore is also a natural attraction for a guy in Virginia as well. Kenny's having a hair of the dog this morning. Your show is great, but it's hard to watch any college basketball in March. F Duke. I threw the Duke thing in just for you, Sean. Sorry. I will do that from time to time. Don't take any offense. There's times I get worked up and I get on with people and I mess with them, and it's all for fun. We're here having fun. Sean Spencer, poor coaching. Hubert Davis is, and again, I was hoping to get. You can certainly make a comment here, and we'll get back to baseball here in a second. Because I do want to go through the power rankings quickly anyway. Talk about a couple other pieces of news, but I'd like to get your opinion on Hubert Davis. I mean, last year was not a good year either until late in the year. They got hot, had a good ACC tournament, made the tournament. We know they went to the final. This year, they didn't have that magical run at the end. And listen, it's as much coaching they'd had a lot of injuries, but again, everybody has injuries, so I'm not a big fan of that. One thing I will say about injuries and these big programs, they cannot withstand injuries the way they used to because of NIL, the transfer portal. Kids are not going to sit. You're not going to be able to have 2 full teams that could beat most anybody else if you put your second 5 in. The depth of these teams, none of them is as good as it was in the past when they could just stockpile players. That goes for football and basketball. And basketball, I think it shows up more. And that's why you see some of these teams doing well, because kids, rather than sit on the bench at North Carolina, will transfer to, I don't know, San Diego State, and they might make some money in the well, there you go. Kenny's talking about that new transfer thing will stop a lot of teams. Even if they win next year, it will be questionable. I'm not sure how to take that one, but I get it. I think we're talking about basically the same thing. Teams are not as deep. I believe the portal should be allowed in professional sports. There it is. You have a contract, Kenny. You only have to sign a 1-year contract. There is a portal in professional sports. It's called free agency. You want to be in the portal, don't sign a contract for more than 1 year. You're in it every year. Back on track. All right, let's get to the NL, and so we get to some football and stuff here today too. And I know Kenny tries to distract me just so I have no chance to get to the NBA later. And it often works. NL East typical, but Washington hanging in. Washington's not going to stay there, though. They're 3-6. I wouldn't call that hanging in either. Actually true. If that's hanging in, man, the bar's really set pretty low now. Mets got off to a okay start. They kind of went. They had a 3-game losing streak there and played really badly for 3 of those 3 games. But they came back. The danger there would have been, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen, of the Braves getting off to a huge start, right? 20-5, and the Mets staying around 500, which would have put them way back early. I do think this Braves team will beat this Mets team by close to 10 games, 8 to 10 games. The Mets already have some worrisome performances from Scherzer. Verlander's been out, but by all accounts, he's ready to resume pitching here pretty quickly. Carrasco hasn't been good. Their DH issue is still there. I think you're going to see some of the kids up soon. I think you see Batty up. You already see Alvarez up with Navarro getting hurt. So, again, nothing to be surprised here about. I'm not counting the Phillies to have much of a year. You know, they got to a 1-5 start, and I wasn't looking at them to be that bad, but not a good start for them. And the Marlins, the Marlins are the Marlins, and they're never going to be any good until they figure out what they want to do. They never seem to have a plan. Never. What do you got here, Sean? Real quick, and I'm going to move on. Probably our last college basketball comment for now. Davis didn't seem to want to play his bench. Last year we were. I believed an 8 seed. I believe you're right, an 8 seed coming to the tournament. It's close if it's not totally accurate, but you're pretty close. Plus, I think the loss of Brady Manick really hurt. Davis relied on his starting 5 and didn't let his bench get going. I don't disagree. So I'm going to assume you're agreeing necessarily with Rick's comments that coaching is the issue in Carolina. Bad coaching becomes a recruiting issue at some point as well. So they got to be careful. Well, again, Kenny, then maybe you're saying do away with multi-year contracts and just let guys go in the portal anytime, which, by the way, would not be good. One of the problems with college sports, whether it's a one and done rule, whether it's the portal, is you can't become invested in guys. It's going to hurt fandom. Again, I think guys move too much now in sports. When I was a kid, because of the antitrust exemption that Major League Baseball had, you were tied to that team forever until they cut you or traded you. But the upside of that, while it wasn't good for players and their ability to make more money, which they have now, but as a fan, you were able to get to know players and have certain players that you're rooted for year after year after year. In a transfer portal, that would be it'd be awful in Major League Baseball. Plus, the teams with a lot of money would always win. That isn't the case now. I mean, yes, you have an advantage when you have a big payroll, but it's not always the biggest payroll teams that win. You've seen the Brewers do well over time. You've seen the Cardinals. Well, the Cardinals have a pretty hefty payroll. Royals for a while in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. I'm sorry, 2010 is, what do we call that? Not the aughts, but the 2010s. NL Central, as our stream of consciousness continues. NL Central, kids are leading Milwaukee. Pirates and Cubs playing over their heads. They will not continue that stretch. I like the Brewers. Playing really good baseball. I'm interested to see what this is after a couple more weeks. Cardinals are probably the biggest surprise. But they won't stay in last, as Drew kind of points out here. Because there's no way they're finishing behind the Pirates, Cubs, or Reds. Pirates are going to be really bad. Brian Reynolds off to a great start for the Pirates, and it's only good for they wanted to move him, but they're asking for a Soto-like return, and that's not going to happen unless he continues his hot start. Yankees badly want him, but they're not going to give, well, think about it. If I'm the Yankees, I will consider giving up Gleyber Torres and a pitching prospect for Brian Reynolds, but not the kind of haul that Washington was able to get for Soto. Well, if it's awful, then the commissioner will. Well, that's a good point. Maybe I should say it's great so that the commissioner doesn't ever watch this show and say, hey, we should do this because somebody said it was a great idea. Oh, by the way, Rick, earlier on, this applies to baseball too. When I was on the Mac and Jack show, you had alluded to Basement Bob. When I talked about that anti-dumping plan that I had, that wasn't one of Basement Bob's deal. I think it was, I can't remember if it was a football. I feel like it was like Buster Only, because they were talking about it in baseball. And you take them, just so you guys get it, the conversation was about the NBA, the Dallas Mavericks were dumping their last two games. We see it in football all the time where the Texans and Colts were both trying to dump in the last game. Don't give the number one pick to the teams that's worst. Give it to the team that is the first one to miss out on the playoffs. And you go from there till you get to the last team, and then, the best team picks right after that. I'm sorry, then whatever. If it's, you know what I mean. The last team picks first, but the first team that's out of the playoffs or doesn't make the playoffs picks first. I didn't steal that one from Basement Bob, but I want to give credit where credit is due. I just can't remember who I saw it from first. I feel like it was Buster Only. I could be wrong. The teens. Thank you. Is that how you say that then? Good grief. The aughts, the teens, the roaring 20s we're in now, right? Yeah, tanking. NOS, mediocrity so far. I love this Diamondbacks team. We talked about it on the preview show. I don't think they're going to contend this year. I think, again, they could. The Dodgers, they had gotten off to a decent start, but lost their last couple. The Padres were struggling. They won their last couple. I do think the Padres and Dodgers will be the cream of the crop here. I don't think, I don't think that is going to be the way it ends. I think their mediocrity right now is an illusion, let's say. Dodgers, but the Dodgers, if one of these teams was going to fall off, I see it more being the Dodgers. I just don't think they're that deep. I know other people think they are. Drew, I think you might think they are. I just don't see them being that deep. Their pitching staff could be a problem for this team, and the offense could be a problem. What's Max Muncy hitting right now? Man, he's like a cheaper version of freaking Joey Gallo. Not that much cheaper either, by the way. What's Muncy hitting at the moment? 129. Where'd he go? 15 strikeouts and 31 at-bats. Joey Gallo Jr. Rockies only 2 games out. That won't last, that's for sure. Diamondbacks could hang around here and surprise. Similar to the Orioles, this is a team being built kind of the right way. I love it. Their outfield is so quick. They're going to cover more ground defensively than any team in baseball, in my mind. I really like what they're doing with their offense, and they've still got some veterans on that team that will either move on as this team matures or be part of helping these guys learn how to win. Although the veterans on this team haven't necessarily been winners anywhere. So pitching still matters in baseball. Even though Major League Baseball does everything they can to make sure hitters have an advantage over pitchers, pitching still is important in this game. Baseball, this is pointed at Drew. Baseball and all professional sports, I'm assuming we missed a word, are drained of true talent. Too many teams. Listen, I don't necessarily disagree with this, Kenny. And in fact, Drew and I think, touched on this during the Major League Baseball preview show that, every time we said weak bench, everybody's got a weak bench because, first of all, they spend so much money on the starters, and you do have a cap, even though it's not a hard cap. You can exceed it and pay a luxury tax, which the Yankees do, the Mets do, the Dodgers do, the Red Sox, all the haves do. The have-nots, of course, don't. But also by the fact that there's just not as many good players around because there's too many teams. 30, true, not 32, as I said last week one day. I did that. Muncy might be because I just dropped him, I think. Did I drop him or did I put him on my bench? Now you got me looking. If he's available, it's because I just dropped him. I kept him. I didn't drop him. I put him on my bench and put Young in. Josh Young. That just doesn't read as Young to me, but thank you, Drew. More accurate to say there's lots of true talent, but not enough to make some teams deep. Well, I think that's the point he's making, though, Drew. There's not enough. There is lots of true talent, without a doubt. There's as much talented baseball players around as any time in the history of baseball, I think. But we can't go as deep. I mean, I'm trying to think of some examples of. Think about the '86 Mets. Think of the talent they had sitting on the bench. Kevin Mitchell. Howard Johnson. These guys all sat the bench. Well, they were bench players, right? So, but you don't have that type of talent on benches today. Not as a rule. There's a few. But anyway. What else we got going around the world of baseball here? Let's get to a couple of let's see. Rays win, we said. Yankees add Donaldson to the DL, as we said. Might be a good sign for the Yankees. Maybe to be a long trip, because here's the problem with Donaldson. He's not hitting. His glove's okay. He's not a guy who can sit the bench. He needs to sit the bench. He's not a starter in his league anymore. And he hasn't been for a while. But he's going to be a problem if he sits the bench. So maybe this is a long DL stint. That's what I would hope for. And I think on a more, maybe a more important level, Jonathan Loaizaga joins the IL for the Yankees. Everybody knows how I feel about Loaizaga. He's maybe the linchpin of this bullpen. Bullpen's pitched really well. Holmes has probably been the guy who struggled the most. But Loaizaga is a guy who can pitch in any situation. He can close. He can go long. He's a Swiss Army knife. And he hurts the Yankees. When he was hurt last year, it hurt the Yankees. So he joins a long list of injuries there for sure. We talked about this crazy game with the Twins. Max Kepler, another guy who seems to get hurt a lot with the Twins. Brian Buxton seems to be playing and not getting hurt so far. But Kepler, who was a target of the Yankees for left field this year, gets hurt as well. We talked about the Rays placing Jose Siri on a 10-day injured list, and Tigers' Austin Meadows, interestingly enough, goes on to focus on his mental health. He missed most of last season because of anxiety. This has become an increasing thing where, and I think it's because of the awareness that has been put on mental health. And I sometimes, listen, I don't make light of the mental health issues that some people have. And I don't really mean to do that when I berate guys like, Kyrie Irving, who obviously need help. And sometimes I probably sound a little flip when I'm talking about his issues, that I'll drive him in a car as far as he wants to go and show him the earth is not flat because we'll never fall off. But this is a serious issue, and you're seeing more and more players now, I think, because of the light that's been shown, light that's been shown on it, coming forward, where in the past they wouldn't have. They would have just sat quietly and suffered. So that's something to be watched. Cardinals, Packy Naughton, one of the great names, placed on the IL with a forearm strain. Derek Hall set for surgery after a base running injury, torn ligament in his right thumb. Big blow to the Phillies after they'd already lost Ryan Hoskins for the year. Now they're going to lose Derek Hall for a significant portion of the season, I would think. See, what did they say? They put him on a 10-day DL, but I got to believe this is we're talking months here, not weeks, that Hall will be out. Verlander, as I said earlier, he is targeting a return here in April, and the Mets remain cautious. So the Mets could be really good, but this pitching staff could implode on them. You got two guys that total about 80 years old. That's an article about the pitching clock, which we already talked about. I'm going to move on from baseball here soon, guys, unless you have something else. I was going to go through the power rankings, but I want to get into some football. Let's see what else you guys got here. No, I'm not in favor of, again, why dynamically change the game? I mean, again, there's that many bullpen pitchers, Kenny, because they don't train pitchers to go deep into games. Again, a case where baseball doesn't need to change the rules and make them 7-inning games when they've been 9 innings for 150 years. I keep making that number up, but I know I'm not far away. Somebody verified it for me not long ago. But again, it would be just another case of changing the rule to make the game not better. Yeah, in your mind, make it better, or Major League Baseball if they put this rule in, where you could just, again, train pitchers the way you did back in the 70s and 60s and even the 80s to a certain extent, where they were trained to pitch 7, 8, 9 innings. Not so they get to 90 pitches and they're looking into the dugout for somebody to come and get them. If that was the case, you wouldn't need 13 pitchers. Jared Schuster continually riding the option elevator for the Braves. You got a couple of those guys. You got Brito doing it right now with the Yankees. See what they do with him today. Adam Duvall for MVP. That won't last. What's Adam Duvall's numbers right now? Let's take a quick look at Adam Duvall's numbers. Who else is off to a hot start that you want to chat about? Adam Duvall has, he hasn't had a bad career, but he's hitting .483, 4 homers, 14 RBIs. His on-base percentage, Alan, are you still with me? .545. That won't last. 14 hits. Right now, he might be the Triple Crown winner in baseball. Let me just see. Is he? He's leading in average. No, he's not leading home runs. He's one behind Reynolds and Alfonso. Reynolds did hit his 5th the other day. He's leading in RBI. So he's close to a Triple Crown winner here on April 9th. A. Brown. Antonio Brown coming to Albany, moving into Saratoga. Watch out, Saratoga. You've got Dave Portnoy. If you're talking about Antonio Brown, I'm not sure who you're talking about here, but A. Brown makes me think of Antonio Brown moving to Albany. Sounds like he might play for the Empire, the Arena League team here. His father is a legend in the Capital District. Touchdown Eddie Brown played with the Firebirds when they were winning championships back in the 90s. We all know Antonio Brown's problems. And if that's not who you're talking about, you can tell me what you are talking about. But it's going to be interesting. Will upstate New York ever be the same? In the same week, Saratoga Springs is adding Dave Portnoy, who I think is buying like a $3.5 million house or some crazy thing in Saratoga. We'll see if he starts doing his Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports. If you don't know who Dave Portnoy is, he's a blowhard who I keep posting my videos to Barstool, and sometimes they let him go up and sometimes they don't. But he made this guy, listen, you can say what you want about Dave Portnoy. If you like him or you hate him or you don't even know who he is. The guy started out just filming on a phone pizza reviews and turned it into a freaking $1 billion industry. He sold Barstool. He's still a big, run the company and whatnot, but he sold Barstool for a huge buck here recently. So we'll see. Upstate New York may never be the same. Odell's meeting with the Jets. Where's Waldo? Need his opinion on the Weiner and Odell. Well, it looks more and more. Joe Douglas. Speaking of, let's move on here. Let me just see. Let me see if we get any more baseball. The amateur at the Masters won't receive any money, and it sucks. Well, he's an amateur for a reason. He's not supposed to make money. Brian Anderson resurrected in Milwaukee. Yes, playing very, very well. Happy Easter, Billy. Kenny was just looking, or Rick was just looking for Waldo to make his comment. Correct, is it? Yeah. It is. Mental health has become a big issue in this country, in sports, specifically to what we're talking about. And I do think more players are now not as afraid to come forward. Glaber, as I mentioned earlier, playing great baseball. Again, I think it may be not for his Yankee career, because I do think he's the most logical trade chip they have, assuming they want to hang on to the kids. And that's unfortunate. And I'll get back to somebody had a Odell comment. We'll go back to that in a second. Whatever it takes. Billy just wants to win. Well, college players are amateur and get paid. Well, that's not a bad point. But they're not getting paid for their performance. That's the key here, Kenny. Somebody could pay this kid, and maybe paying him if he's playing at a college. I don't know what his background is. I'm assuming he's playing college golf somewhere, and if he is, he may very well be getting an NIL money. Check him out. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I have the leaderboard up here. I do. Where is he? Carr, we're talking about, right? No, he missed the cut. I'm in the cuts. I don't want him. I got in the cuts. I want to go at the top. Oh, Bennett. Who's this guy? What's his name? Sam Bennett. Let's take a look. I want to see if Sam Bennett's making any NIL money right now. NIL. Just to answer Kenny's question here. You won't take home any money. I can't find out. Yeah, everything Oh, he could leave over $1 million in Augusta if he finishes where he is. It's $1 million he wouldn't be able to collect. I can't find what he's making. He's from, it looks like Texas A&M, I think is what I saw. And I guarantee this kid's getting some kind of money. Not $1 million, Kenny, but. Well, that's true. But again, they're not technically getting paid for their performance. Listen, I'm okay if the kid gets some money. I don't care. Olympic athletes get paid money, right? Not technically for their performance, but to train for those performances. Somebody's backing them. So it's a touchy situation. I'd be okay if the kid got paid. The way we are now, I mean, again, based on where we are now, to me, amateurs should stay amateurs and not get paid. But if we're going to pay one, we should probably figure this out. Let's move on to the NFL. We can back up if we have to, but I want to get into a couple things. Rick already brought up one of them, and we'll start there. Let me find your comment, Rick. Odell's meeting with the Jets. By the way, Odell's been meeting with everybody for, since midseason last year. Either he can't play, he doesn't want to play, or teams don't want him. I don't know what. It's one of those things. Now, Arron Rodgers has said he wants to play with Odell Beckham, which, again, to me, for the Jets, you're already taking a gamble, which I'm fine with. I think the position, and again, I am not an Arron Rodgers fan. Anybody who watches me knows I'm not an Arron Rodgers fan. But the position the Jets are in, with enough talent to contend at skill positions, their defense is good enough to be in a Super Bowl now, be a Super Bowl contender now. You're a quarterback away from being any good. You might as well take this gamble because all the other options, there are no other options anyway now, but all the other options that are available, we're not getting you Super Bowl level possibilities. Arron Rodgers does. If Arron Rodgers comes in and plays anywhere near his capabilities and it doesn't totally implode because he can't handle New York or whatever else, it's worth a shot. Now, you bring in Odell Beckham, now you're pouring even more gasoline on that bonfire that you're potentially lighting with Rodgers. So again, the more gasoline you put on there, the more possibility you're going to light the entire forest on fire. Or if you can control the fire, then you've got something going. It's a gamble for the Jets. It's one I'd be willing to make if I was a Jet fan. I'm not, and maybe part of my head is talking that way because I want them to fail because I want the Patriots to succeed. And again, I didn't say Happy Easter. If I didn't say Happy Easter, I think I did at the top. Happy Easter to those who do celebrate it, and if you don't, enjoy your weekend anyway. What we got here? Kenny, when college players are amateur. Again, they aren't getting paid to play football, though. They are getting paid because they play football, but not getting paid for their football performance. And you're right. If they don't perform, they won't get paid. I understand that. But it's more sponsorship money, which is fine. I mean, I'm not for that. So it's hard for me to go out and say that, this kid should get his $1 million. I don't know. Maybe they could make it. What they could do is put the money in trust for the kid for when he isn't an amateur anymore, right? Do something. But again, this isn't new. Amateurs have never gotten paid for winning or wherever they might finish for doing well in professional golf tournaments. I agree. CA's with us today. Happy Easter to you. Happy Easter to anybody who does celebrate that holiday. Good to have you with us, CA. You've missed some spirited conversation already about baseball. We're on to football now. Rodgers will do well in New York because he is a freak. He is a freak. He's a weirdo. You know what? We can say all we want about Arron Rodgers, and I've said a lot. I've said he's selfish. He wanted his team to get better, but wouldn't. He wanted every nickel he could squeeze out of the team for himself at the same time, where other players would forfeit some of that money for themselves, at least in the present, to help make your team better. He's never done it. Now, he said he would potentially restructure his contract in New York to help ease some of those issues. Because remember, in football, there's a hard cap. You're not going over it. You cannot exceed the cap in football. Unlike baseball, even basketball to a certain extent. Even basketball is more stringent than baseball. Hell, the Mets were pretty close to having a $400 million payroll this year, which would have been almost $200 million over the cap. But you just paid a luxury tax. If you got it, you pay it. Football, you can't do that. Now, with that said, and again, if Rodgers came in here and played to his capabilities, he makes the Jets a Super Bowl contender. if it doesn't implode on top of him because of his personality, because he can't handle the New York press, because of a lot of things that we don't know what will happen. With all that said, for the Jets, it's worth the gamble because you're ready to win now. You just need a quarterback. LTE reception spotty. LTE. Man, CA, you're going to teach me something again. What is that? Tim Boyle sounds with the Jets. Yes, Tim Boyle is now the backup plan for the Jets now. I mean, Zach Wilson, again, Joe Douglas said the other day, he basically said everything except there's no way Arron Rodgers won't be the quarterback for this team. Now, interestingly enough, I've talked about the leverage that the Packers seem to think they have that they don't. Right now they have no choice. They have to trade Rodgers because if they don't trade him, they can't bring him back. No way can he come back. They can hope he retires. He's not retiring with $50+ million on the table. He's not doing it. And if you cut him, the Jets get him for nothing. Well, basically nothing because he'll get his $50 million from Green Bay, and the Jets could have a more team-friendly deal. Now, a mystery team who I think is the 49ers have kind of popped into the conversation here. And I wonder if it's really the 49ers or it's the Packers saying, okay, somebody else is interested. Because that's one of the reasons they've been hamstrung. They don't have somebody. They don't have another team to negotiate with. But it would be just like the Jets to lose out on Rodgers because all of a sudden at the last minute he signed somewhere else. The Packers have backed off wanting that. I think the Jets have the 13th pick, if I'm not mistaken. I think they backed off that in this draft. They may want a number 1 pick next year. I don't know. I don't know exactly where they are right now with their negotiations, but they are not dealing for a position of strength unless there is somebody out there. Tim Boyle's probably going to be the 3rd string quarterback. Zach Wilson would be the backup. And that's the other upside to bringing Rodgers in. For all the crap he's done in his career and said and turning into just a strange individual the last 4 or 5 years, by all accounts in Green Bay, unlike his predecessor in Green Bay, Brett Favre, who did not help Arron Rodgers even a little bit, wasn't his job, he said. Arron Rodgers, by all accounts, has helped Jordan Love get to a position where the Packers think they can count on him to be their starter. So if he were to do that when he comes to New York, maybe Zach Wilson will learn something from Arron Rodgers that will help him down the road. Titans, Jeffrey Simmons agreed to a term on a blockbuster 4-year, 94. Some of the money that these defensive linemen are getting is amazing, by the way. But that's a good deal for the Titans. He'll be important to their team going forward. New York has a ton of caves. And they're called subways and sewers, by the way, unless you're talking about upstate. He'd probably be very happy down in the sewers of New York with the rats and whatnot. Rodgers is getting a new manager, Donald Trump. Really? I'm not sure. I'm not sure I get the correlation there, Kenny. Oh, no Wi-Fi in lots of areas. Okay. Understood. We're upset that you couldn't make it with us. Outside of the Rodgers news, by the way, hang on. Jets sign 11 quarterbacks, run razzle dazzle. Here's what you do. I very rarely have praised your team. Well, that's not true. Last couple of years I have. Because I do think they've done a great job in the draft the last 2 years. Zach Wilson, included. Maybe that will turn out to be a bust. We didn't think it was going to turn him into a winner overnight. Now, if he gets a chance to sit behind one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, even though he's turned into a weirdo, it would probably benefit him. But the Jets are ready to win, Billy. Arron Rodgers joins his team tomorrow. They are an immediate Super Bowl contender. They're probably the favorite to win this division. Buffalo's slipping. The Dolphins, we don't know if Tua's going to play a quarter or if Tua's going to play, 16 games, 17 games. I don't know what is going to happen. My gut says it's not over for Tua as far as the concussions go. And Rick talked about this the other day, brought up on one of my shows, that he may have to retire due to protect his own health. So I don't see the Dolphins really making a move. Now, the Patriots are kind of a wild card here because right now, as this team is constituted, I can see them winning anywhere from as low as 6 to 12 games. And there's a lot of controversy going on there, which we'll touch on here in a second. Shane. Why do I want to say Shane, man? Sean Spencer. You know why? Because Shane Spencer was a big Yankee prospect, and came up and had a really hot start. One of those guys had a really hot start with the Yankees and fizzled out pretty quickly. But that's probably why I keep doing that. I'm a huge Washington fan and have heard rumors of Lamar Jackson coming here. There are rumors about Lamar Jackson and Washington. The last mock draft I saw, by the way, had my favorite guy in the draft, Will Levis, going to the Redskins at 14 or wherever. They're not at 14. I think the Patriots are. I think that'd be a great pick for Washington. If he falls to 14, which all indications are that Will Levis is dropping, did not have a good pro day. But I still am very high on this kid. Anyway, you want no part of it, but mainly because I don't want an RG3 situation where I agree. Listen, I just don't find where quarterbacks who play like Lamar Jackson, who's a great talent, a great athlete, they don't win Super Bowls. What quarterback who plays a game like Lamar Jackson, and maybe the game's heading towards a point where they will, what quarterback who plays a game like Lamar Jackson has ever won a Super Bowl? You just had one who didn't win in Hurts. They played well. They got to a Super Bowl. I get it. And maybe that's, maybe we're heading towards this inevitably that, these athletic quarterbacks are the way to go. And it's going to be the future of the NFL. But now you've got to the point where teams are going to make extreme reaches for guys like Anthony Richardson, who to me showed nothing other than athleticism in college to warrant being as high as a top 4 pick now. That is really gambling. You got to pick as high as number 4, or you're in the first 10. Even if you're in the first round and you gamble on Anthony Richardson, I think it's a big, big gamble. Plus, and to get Lamar right, you're going to have to give up the farm to get him, right? You're at 16. I have seen Will Levis falling as far. I've seen him falling farther than that, but I've seen a lot of mocks the last few days that have Will Levis going to the Redskins. And I will add, since I'm talking about Anthony Richardson, and I just don't understand. I get it. He's a great athlete. That's what teams are looking at. I saw some mock drafts today and yesterday, 3 of them now. And, of course, there's hundreds of them out there, and I can find a bunch that don't show this, right? It's the first time ever I saw this because of some of the issues that are going on in New England at the moment, that if he falls to the Patriots at, I think they're at 14 maybe, they will take Anthony Richardson with that pick. I would be shocked if that were to happen, but I've seen it in 3 different mock drafts and a couple pretty reputable ones. I don't want that. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they go a cornerback or offensive lineman first with their first pick. And I think Mac Jones is the quarterback. I'm waiting for the first woman to win a Super Bowl as a quarterback. I'm not diving into this. I'm not diving into this topic today, Kenny. That's a good one, though. Thank you for that. Gave me a good laugh. Oh, good. Who is it, Kenny? I know where you're going with this, and don't even say it. Don't say it. Unless it's somebody I don't think it is. Don't say it. What's this? Cornerback PU. Steve McNair almost won it all. That you know what though? Steve McNair is a great quarterback. I wouldn't put him in the same category. Was he? And again, I have to look at his numbers, but he wasn't running for 700, 800, 900 yards a year. You know, the guys like Jackson and Josh Allen and Josh Fields. Let me take a look at Steve McNair's numbers. I want to look at his stats. Football. Let me see how many run. What was his number one? I don't think he could run. There's a difference to me too, Sean, between a scrambler, because there's a lot of guys who can move. You almost have to move in the NFL today, right? You have to have some ability to scramble and then run. That's what Jesus Christ, McComb. Why can't I say the guy's name? Mahomes. Jesus. That's what he does. He doesn't run for a lot of yards, but he does have great escapability, and he gets runs that way. But they aren't designed runs. I want to find his rushing stats. That's all QB ratings. Where's his rushing and receiving? Okay, that's a good point. His highest rushing yardage was in his third season, 674. But his last 5 years, he never rushed for more than 138. The year they went to the Super Bowl, he rushed for 337. I'm guessing Mahomes has got close to that just from scrambling. So I'm talking about designed runs and things like that. Colin Kaepernick lost on the last play. Colin Kaepernick played in a gimmick offense, the pistol, and it quickly was caught on to by other teams. And to me, that I count that as kind of an aberration. I don't say it's impossible. I do think it's unlikely. Nobody's ever won. That's all I'm saying. I'm not wrong. And Jalen Hurts did get to a Super Bowl, but he lost. And again, I do want to say again, Sean, it's very possible that the league could be turning towards that. And it might become, because again, this league is cyclical, right? If teams see teams becoming successful doing this and getting to Super Bowls regularly, well, then you're going to see more of it. And, because it's a copycat league. But I wouldn't actually call McNair. He's more of a scrambler than a runner like Lamar Jackson, like Josh Fields, like Jalen Hurts. I'm not sure what that is. What'd you miss, Bill? I think he's talking about the woman quarterback, and I know where he's going, Kenny. I just know where he's going. And go ahead, say the name, Billy, because I haven't gotten mad now in at least an hour. I know where you're going. Prove me wrong. I want you to prove me wrong. But be honest with your answer. Sean, good point. That's where I think the topic gets foggy. I used to be a pocket passer versus scrambler. Now it's a scrambler versus RP. There you go. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And fine line, right? So, and I do think most of Steve McNair's, even that year, he probably had 674 yards. He probably did most of that scrambling. Mahomes runs for a decent amount of yardage, but they're never designed runs, for sure. Talking a little bit more about the Bills and the Patriots situation, Belichick and Mac Jones. The stories are that they shopped him to 4 teams, unnamed, by the way. It's a little late right now. They're not going to trade Mac Jones right now. The teams are set to quarterbacks. They're not going to be making trades. There was some talk about the Redskins, by the way, Sean, being one of the teams that he talked to, whether that's true or not. To me, this is Bill holding a grudge. I mean, Mac Jones, to give you some background if you don't already know, Mac Jones, frustrated with the struggles of the offense that Bill Belichick had allowed to be put together by Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, coaching out of position. I'll get to your comment there in a second, Kenny. That he wasn't a runner either, though. Tarkenton was a classic scrambler, run for a bunch of yards. I don't think he's really serious about trading him. I do think he's pissed. We knew in January that he'd gone outside the organization because he was frustrated with the offense. We found out just this past week where he went was Alabama, his alma mater. And it's not surprising that it got back to Belichick pretty quickly because Nick Saban and Belichick are buddy-buddy. Now, he probably went there to talk to Bill O'Brien, who, by the way, he never played for. But now, interesting enough, is the offensive coordinator in New England. The entire organization, including the owner, including Bill O'Brien, who's seen him now up close, are very high still on Mac Jones. And the only guy who isn't is Bill Belichick. And part of it, I think, is because he regressed last year, which wasn't totally his fault. Second year in an NFL quarterback's evolution is very, very important. And the Patriots did him no favors. They did him a disservice, in fact, doing what they did, putting guys out of position in the coaching staff. And Belichick can say all he wants. And this is hard for me to rip Bill Belichick, who is the greatest coach of all time. So, but to do things totally out of character, because what he's done during the 20-year run the Patriots had was put guys in positions to succeed, not ask them to do things they couldn't do. Well, this year, he put two coaches in a position that they could not succeed. Great defensive coach in Patricia and a great special teams coach in Joe Judge. And you put him in charge of the offense and the quarterback. And Mac Jones had nobody to kind of fall back to. Now, should he have gone outside the organization or let his coach know, listen, I'm going to talk to so-and-so just to get, shoot some ideas around? No. But just if Belichick's holding a grudge because of that and he's willing to blow up the franchise, there's no plan B here, unless it is to draft Anthony Richardson, who probably isn't going to last to 14. Again, I don't understand why. But this is much ado about nothing. I think it could be Belichick just trying to motivate Mac Jones. He also says there'll be a full-fledged quarterback competition between him and Bailey Zappi, which is fine. I'm okay with that. I'm sure Mac Jones is okay with that because he thinks he will win it. And I think Bill O'Brien's going to revitalize Mac Jones' career that was retarded last year because of his growth was retarded because of the system that the coaching hierarchy, if you will, that Bill Belichick put into place. Awful. Needs to end. Tarkenton lost 4 Super Bowls. I don't think you were talking about Tarkenton. Oh, that was yours. Oh, I'm sorry. Who said that? Billy. Oh, that was Ken. So, no, I'm sorry. Bill Pulver still has not answered. Here we go. Here it is. This could be it. Yeah, shit. You won't. Go ahead. Say the name. I can say it. Now I know. I don't know who you're talking about. Oh, my God, Bill. You're so funny. I'm not taking a bait today. I will tell you one thing. If you think Tom Brady was not tough, you need to pay closer attention. Go back and watch a game or two that he played and watch the beating that he took during his career and missed only the games where his knee was destroyed on an illegal hit by Pollard from Baltimore when he missed the whole entire season. No tougher quarterback ever played in the NFL than Tom Brady. And, if I was going to, he also, by the way, never posed on a pantyhose commercial. So you're right. It's possible a woman already did win a Super Bowl, and it was back in 1969. So you could be right, Billy, now that I think about it. Now I'm down slinging mud like a freaking 10-year-old. 3 Super Bowls. Cap lost the other. Very good call. Watch, by the way, speaking of the Vikings, I didn't talk about it at the top, but go back and watch my interview I did this past week, and it aired live at 6 o'clock on Thursdays, which all of them will do going forward. Last week, we had Chuck Foreman, which you can go back and watch. Chuck Foreman, former Minnesota Viking great. We had a great conversation about, and very eye-opening about, him playing at Miami, going to play in the South when he did in the late 60s, and his relationship with Bud Grant. I love some of the comments he had about Ed White. In fact, I had a private conversation with Ed White afterwards, talking with him about it, how he praised Ed White, for a lot of what happened in his career, about his not being in the Hall of Fame, which is, Rick was very happy. I too, the great takeaway I took from that interview was when we were talking about the Hall of Fame, and, he didn't understand how people vote, and, we went down this road quite a ways. And I just finally said, as I would say to anybody, do you think you belong in the Hall of Fame? And his answer was, you're damn right I do. It was kind of a few good men, moment, but it was a good interview. It was a lot of fun. And next week, by the way, we'll have Irving Fryer, former Patriot, Dolphin, and Eagle great, also another eye-opening. He should have said Namath. The guy wore pantyhose, for crying out loud. So he's a tougher quarterback than Tom Brady, who had. I mean, I forget about all the passing records that Namath holds and all the Super Bowls he played in. Oh, you're right. Maybe it's only one. I have a hard time. One, I'm about to perch, so maybe one is a lot. I can't remember. Anyway. He should have said Namath, by the way, if he was being honest. And then, by the way, I'm only disparaging Joe Namath in defense of my quarterback, who's only the greatest player of all time. I mean, that's, whatever. Yeah, Bud, imagine that. We live in a country that created the net, yet many other countries have full Wi-Fi satellite reception, and we don't. That's a good point. There's times here I pay $1 gazillion for internet, and there's times where it's just freaking terrible. And I'm sitting right here next to the router. I'm better off sometimes on the net rather than, the 5G, when I'm sitting right next to the router. So CA, that's that conversation we picked up from about half an hour ago, because CA's kind of back and forth with his reception and when he can comment. What else is going on in the world of pro football? Where are we? Jesus, already 10:08? We're not going to get to the NBA. Kenny, try living on the mountain. Oh, God. Right? Let me see what else is going on in the NFL we can talk about real quick. I might do one quick mock. Let me see. Should we do? I don't know if I want to get into these mock drafts. Let's talk a little bit. We talked. Drew brought up Simmons agrees to a 4-year, $94 million deal with the Titans. Oh, by the way, Joe Mixon, who somebody tried to on another show, not my show. And I won't call out the show because I don't want the host to get in any trouble because it wasn't him. They were talking about teams and he had a guest on, or a contributor on, who was talking about, I don't remember who they were talking about. They were talking about, they were just talking in general about, bad acts in sports and football for sure. And that Ray Rice should have got another shot, because hitting a woman isn't that big a deal in his mind. Deshaun Lewis or Deshaun Watson, and some other guys, and saying, you know what, people deserve a second chance in this world. And if you think so, for whatever reason, because I made a couple of comments and I got called a snowflake. I don't understand how Law and Order people all of a sudden are snowflakes. It's people who want people to get second, third, and fourth chances are the snowflakes of the world, by the way, not to dive into the world of politics and name calling, but that's just the way the conversation went. Believe me, if anybody's not a snowflake, it's me. But he brought up as an example of somebody who got a second chance and made the most of it, Joe Mixon. And at the time, a charge of aggravated, what was the charge? aggravated menacing charge because he pointed a gun at a woman on January 21st. The charges have been dropped the day before, I think, these comments were made. But now they've been reinstated. Again, just because charges get dropped against somebody does not in any way mean that they didn't do what they were claimed to have done. And I'm not saying guys shouldn't get second chances, but if you do things like punch a woman in the face in an elevator and drag her out of it like Ray Rice, or you're involved in a double homicide like Ray Lewis, or you have, 60 plus allegations of sexual abuse against you by masseuses. I don't care that they're masseuses. I don't care if they were prostitutes if you sexually abuse them or beat them or whatever. You don't get a second chance in those instances. Sorry. Anyway, he's got the I'm sorry, I'm off on a tangent here. But he's been the charges have been reinstated against Joe Mixon. So anyway, this guy was so all over the place, contradicting himself right and left. First of all, he doesn't even know what the term snowflake actually should refer to. Law and order people are not snowflakes, just an FYI. I don't know how I got into that. Let's not get into a half an hour discussion about snowflakes. Yeah. Joe Cap in the greatest football movie. Oh, yes, The Longest Yard. He's excellent. That is a great football movie, by the way. One of Burt Reynolds' best. Love that. I didn't know if I cared for the remake. I don't know if you guys saw the remake with Adam Sandler. Doesn't hold a torch to me. It was an okay movie. It doesn't hold a torch to the Burt Reynolds original. You're born, that is the first chance. The second chance is getting out of the hospital, and anything else you do is your last chance. There you go, Kenny. Very good. Now, I will say there might be some instances where you deserve a second chance. Beating up women, sexually abusing women, pointing guns at a woman's head aren't really one of them. You get in trouble with drugs, alcohol, even gambling, I suppose. You have something that is a sickness, and then maybe you get a second chance. But when we're talking about major felonies, no, not at all. Easy to name a call as a keyboard warrior. Not so. He wasn't on a keyboard because he was talking. He was voicing his opinion. He was on the show. I was a keyboard warrior in this case. But I would like to have had the guy on my show. The host very smartly probably moved away from this topic because, in fact, he was not on this guy's side either. This guy contradicted himself right and left. He did not know what he was talking about. It was very obvious. But he does not think apparently that being a serial woman abuser should preclude you from having a sports career. Sorry, I disagree. What do we got here? Bill, I'm thinking 3 if you count whiners. Now, Kenny, you had me at Namath, and now you're including my guy. I know you are. You guys kill me. Pretty sure if you are not a man's man, you're not going out winning 7 Super Bowls. I'm just saying. You can count the guy who's got 1. I don't care. And I wouldn't call him, again, I'm gonna get in trouble for disparaging women if I keep carrying this on any further. Chiefs added to their depth at wide receiver by agreeing to Richie James. He caught 57 passes last year for the Giants. I thought a guy that the Giants might keep and build on. They let him go, and he signs with the Chiefs. Tyreek Hill said on a podcast this week that when his contract is up in 2025, he will retire from the NFL. Excuse me. I now have the hiccups. He's 31 years old. He'll be 33. Or am I doing the math right? Yeah, I guess he'll be 33, depending on when his birthday is. But he says he'll be done, and there'll be no talking him out of it. We'll see how he's playing at the time, whether money will come into play there. Corey Peters, longtime defensive lineman in the NFL, after 12 seasons, announces his retirement. He last played with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Travis Kelce should keep his day job because he threw a pretty bad opening day, first pitch before the Guardians home opener. I'm not sure the tie-in between Kelce and the team formerly known as the Indians, but he did show why he's better off catching passes than throwing them. You said 3. So I'm assuming you meant Namath and the Cave Dweller. Right? Who's the third one? D. Cook is available to join his brother on the Bills for number 1. Do you think, at this point, I don't know if Cook is going to be able to pull back a number 1. Yeah, I'm not sure, Rick, that they could get a number 1 pick for Cook now. And running backs, again, teams don't view running backs in that regard. They just don't. You know, if you're not going to give up, if you're not going to draft running backs with a number 1 pick, and I'm not sure how many are expected to go. I think Bijan Robinson might be the only guy currently projected to go in the first round. Let me see here. Somewhere I had I thought I had a mock draft right up. Oh, let's see. I want to get into a little more draft news. We'll probably skip the NBA again today. How many? Gosh darn it. I'm thinking Bijan Robinson might be the only guy projected to go number 1. This is with a twist. We don't want that. I want a straight draft. I had a couple up today. Maybe they're back here. There's the Masters. By the way, Bruce Koepka. We were going to get into some more of that, but whatever. You guys can put some comments up. We'll get to them in a second. Let me go to the NFL draft page I had here. NFL draft. Where are the? I wanted GMs, NFL draft, best teams, best fits, Todd McShay. Let's just go with Todd McShay's for now. All right. Number 1, CJ Stroud. Number 2, Bryce Young to Houston and Carolina and Houston, respectively. Cardinals projected to trade up, the Colts are projected to trade up because they want Anthony Richardson so bad, apparently. I don't get it. That's Todd McShay's pick, swapping spots with the Cardinals. Will Anderson projected to go to the Cardinals, great player from Alabama. Seattle, Jalen Carter. Some baggage there, as we all know. But Pete Carroll's a guy who will take on guys with baggage. Detroit, Tyree Wilson, defensive end from Texas Tech. Vegas, Devon Witherspoon from Illinois. Falcons, Christian Gonzalez, cornerback from Oregon. Bears, Peter Skoronski, offensive tackle guard from Northwestern. I know the Patriots are very high on him as well. Philadelphia Eagles, Lucas Van Ness, defensive end from Iowa. I'll get to your comments, guys. Let me go through these picks, and then we'll see. I wanted to see how many running backs are in here. It did that. Titans, Jackson Smith Najiba from Ohio State, great wide receiver. Ohio State's become wide receiver U lately. Texans, Nolan Smith, offensive linebacker from Georgia, with their second pick in the first round. The Jets, Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle from Ohio State. They need help on the offensive line. One place they get Rodgers. One place they can certainly upgrade this team is offensive line. He projects a trade in the next spot as the Bucks move up to take Will Levis at number 14 in a trade with New England. Interesting. I'm not sure. So he probably traded back. Green Bay with Miles Murphy, defensive end from Clemson. Commanders, Joey Porter Jr., another name connected with the Patriots at cornerback from Penn State. Great player. Broderick Jones, offensive tackle from Georgia, to the Steelers. Detroit with their second pick in the first round, Bijan Robinson. The Patriots with the Tampa Bay's pick at 19, Darnell Wright, offensive tackle. They're also tied to, as I said, Porter and the offensive Stronsky, the offensive lineman, and their cornerback from Alabama, which is escaping me at the moment. Zay Flowers, wide receiver, to Seattle out of Boston College. Kajaya Kancey, defensive tackle from Pittsburgh, to the Chargers. Baltimore Ravens, Quentin Johnston, to the wide receiver, to Ravens from TCU. Minnesota, Rick. This is Todd McShay from ESPN. Hendon Hooker, bit of a reach in my mind there, at number 23. Jacksonville, Dalton Kincaid, tight end from Utah. Interesting pick. They've already got Evan Ingram, had a great year last year. Giants, Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback from Mississippi. Dallas, Michael Mayer, tight end from Notre Dame. Buffalo, Jordan Addison. I thought Jordan Addison would go much higher here. Patriots have some interest in a wide receiver in the first round. I'd be shocked if they don't take him in the second or third round, 8th wide receiver. I thought Jordan Addison would go much higher than 27. If the Bills get him, that's a nice pickup for a team that's already got some pretty good receivers. Some of them didn't perform as well as would be expected last year. I'll get to your guys' comments here in a second. Dante Banks, cornerback from Maryland, going to Cincinnati at 28. I can't even say this guy's name. Adebayor, defensive tackle from Northwestern, to the Saints. Trade from Miami. San Francisco is a complicated pick for the Saints, but they get it via a couple of trades. The Eagles, Will McDonald, defensive end, Will McDonald the fourth, from Iowa State. Kansas City, Nudike Uzama, defensive end from Kansas. That's the first round. I won't go through the second round, but that right now is Todd McShay's mock draft. Let's see what comments you guys might have. This play-in tournament thing in the NBA, I'll get to that in a second, Drew. We'll spend a little bit of time on that. It is confusing and it is silly, and it's just another way for them to try to put some. Plus, first of all, it takes away from momentum because a lot of teams will sit around now waiting for these, 4 series to get over. I agree. I'll talk a little bit about that if we have some time at the end. I'm not a big fan of the play-in tournament. And there's also some controversy about tanking with Dallas tanking some picks. Anyway, Kenny, that guy Debo is a new type of running back. That guy Debo. I'll have to see him. That's a shame. I try to suffer through some playoff games. Oh, no, we might get to it a little bit. We'll spend a little time. Patriots need wide receiver help. They do for sure. I do not think they'll be taking a wide receiver at number 1. I do think they're still high in Thornton. I've got some hope for Thornton. He had some moments last year, and then he's had trouble staying on the field as well. Parker's still on the roster. Letting Jacoby Myers go is a big, big mistake in my mind. And yes, they need some help, whether it's going to be in the draft or through some other avenue. Rule change. Referees will adjust the play clock following an instant replay reversal the same way they do following other stoppages. Yeah, good. More time now. We got to look at the clock for 3 hours during instant replay. I hate instant replay. I hate it. Number one thing that slows down games in the NFL, in any sport you want to talk about, is instant replay and commercials. But, commercials won't go away. We leave the hookers to Pitino. Now, in fairness to Rick Pitino, he never supplied any prostitutes to his players. That was the assistant coach's job. No basketball, Rick. What's wrong with you? I'm going to go there a little bit, only because Rick and Drew both brought it up. So we'll spend the last couple of minutes here. You guys can go back to the draft here. We'll dive into anything you guys want, but we'll look real quick at the NBA draft. So you're going to be starting here in just a couple days because there's only one regular season game left for everybody. I think everybody. In the East, you're going to have the Heat playing the Bulls, and you're going to have the Hawks playing the Raptors. And Milwaukee and Boston will get the winners of those two matchups. This whole play-in thing became, I'm pretty sure it was brought in during the COVID season, and the NBA liked that little kind of mini tournament. Now, to me, it doesn't matter. Just do away with it. If you want 10 teams in, well, you couldn't have 10 teams in. I think they wanted to add 2 teams because of COVID, and they wanted to find a way to also not, I guess, dilute the playoffs too much. So they devised this play-in tournament, which is 2 out of 3 games. Knicks lost in it 2 years ago to the Hawks. I do like the Heat, and I like the Bulls to come out of this, actually, to be honest with you. So the Knicks are locked into their matchup with the Cavaliers. The Bucks are going to get the winner of the worst team that wins, either Raptors or Chicago. Or the Hawks, I guess. And Boston would get the next worst team to come out of the play-in. Sixers are already set to match up with the Nets. The Cavaliers and the Knicks are set to hook up. The Knicks did beat the Cavaliers 2 out of 3 times. And I like their chances here. I really do. Julius Randle may be back. But his absence has allowed some of the guys to get a chance to play that wouldn't necessarily have gotten a chance. I'm really not happy about this. I don't like the play-in tournament, Drew, to your comments, and I wish they do away with it and just go back to 8 teams in the playoffs, right? 1 plays 8, and you're done. You're right. Whatever happened to, again, you still have to win a certain amount of games to get in here, so your record does indicate where you play. But, to me, it's overkill. In the West, a little bit of controversy in the West. The play-in teams right now are the Lakers, who've rebounded from a horrendous start to get to 42 wins. The Lakers today would play the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Pelicans would play the Timberwolves. The Golden State Warriors have avoided the play-in, which is very important, I think, for them. They played very well recently as well after getting healthy, and they're going to get Wiggins back, who was a big factor for them in the playoff last year when they won. It's going to be a big factor. A little controversy because Dallas pretty much admitted and Jason Kidd said they were throwing the games here this weekend. They didn't care about getting in the playoffs, and they just wanted to solidify their draft situation. And I hate tanking in any situation. But again, and I've mentioned this before, and it didn't come from Basement Bob. And I think it was Buster Only. I cannot remember who I should be crediting this with, but it was not my original concept, but I like it a lot. So the first team that would be out of the playoffs. So for instance, in this case, well, maybe that wouldn't work because now you're tanking not to make the playoffs. Dallas Mavericks would be the number 1 pick. So maybe I'm wrong. In other sports, though, like the NFL, let's say, we always have teams tanking. We had the Texans and the Colts last year at the end of the season tanking, we think. You wouldn't have that because if you weren't the first team out of the playoffs, not to make the playoffs, you're the team that would be the team that had the number 1 pick. And you go all the way down till you got to the worst team, and then you would start again back with the best teams getting the last pick, right? So again, you would change the order a bit, but I think it would eliminate tanking. In this case, it's probably not a good example. But in any event, I think the Lakers will advance. I do think the Pelicans will advance. So you would have the Nuggets against the Pelicans. You would have the Grizzlies against the Lakers. And I like the Lakers to beat the Grizzlies because of the Ja Morant issues. And another kid I liked, and he's turned into just another knucklehead. I think the Nuggets could get upset by the Pelicans, but Zion Williamson is out for the playoffs. We think there as well. So I'll take the Nuggets to get out of round 1 anyway. You'll have Sacramento playing the Warriors or the Clippers. That's still up in the air a little bit, and Phoenix will play the Clippers, which would be you got a couple possibilities. Phoenix could play Golden State in this first round, so you'd have Kevin Durant playing against his old team, the Warriors, where he did win his only title. So very interesting matchups here. We'll talk more about it next week as we dive into it. I like the Knicks to win at least one series. I think the Knicks have a chance to win 2 series here if Julius Randle can come back and be relatively healthy. They want a play-in thing, a split season, and have winners and losers play if they want to have it. I was never a big fan of those, though, but there are leagues that have done it. Baseball did it during the 81 season. It didn't work out very well, only because of an uneven number of games were played in both halves when they had a strike. I think that would make more sense than this. I don't like the concept of this. But again, they wanted to add 2 more teams during the COVID season, and that this was the result. They didn't want to go back the other way because they liked that little mini tournament. TV, Kenny, it's money. You should, of all people, should know that. We'll get the ringmaster in next week. I promise you, Billy. I haven't been able to. Partly, as I said at the top, he was busy a couple of weeks. I haven't reached out. I've been procrastinating. My fault. I've been busy, but as I said, there's no excuse. I didn't have time. It's not an excuse for anybody, and it's not for me. You have time to do everything in your life that's important to you. So take those words again. I'll repeat them once more today. But in the NHL, since we're talking about it, we'll talk a little NHL, and I'll get him in next week, I promise. In fact, I'll reach out to him today to lock him in. The NHL playoffs are going to get off pretty quickly, and very interesting. I can't seem to get to the standings here. I don't know why. The Bruins, who are setting a record with 62 wins and 129 points, and they've won 5 in a row again. This season will not be a success. I'm going to go a little bit long here. This season is not going to be a success for this team if they do not win the Stanley Cup. Nobody remembers great regular seasons if you don't win the championship that season. It's been a great season for the Bruins. A lot of pressure on them. I mean, they finished, 20 points better than anybody else in this Eastern Conference. Well, so would a couple games to go, but they're going to finish roughly, 20 points ahead of anybody else. That's remarkable. I think the Rangers and the Islanders will have a punching chance here, assuming the Islanders hang on and make the playoffs. But don't count out the Tampa Bay Lightning. That is a team that always seems to step up and they'll give somebody a tough time. Nobody expected them to get to the final. They lost to the Avalanche, but they played pretty well last year into the final. Your Jets, Billy, have stumbled a little bit since we've last talked about them. Still had a good season, 91 points, 12 games over 500. They're locked into that 4th spot in the Western Conference. They're going to have to play Colorado. Tough matchup for them, but nobody's really been, overwhelming in this Central Division in the Western Conference. So they'll have a chance. In the far west, we've got the Golden Knights with 107 points. And it looks like Seattle, in their second season, will make the playoffs with 98 points. They will. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. I like who do I like in the West? I'll take your Winnipeg Jets just so I can be rooting for a team you like, Kenny, just to show you I show no hard feelings over your constant beratement of Tom Brady for no reason. I'm going to back your Winnipeg Jets to get to the Stanley Cup final against the best team in hockey, the Bruins. How about that? Gotta go. Happy Easter and Passover to all. I should have mentioned Passover as well. Sorry, Drew. But great to have you with me this morning, and safe travels if you are, in fact, traveling. Not sure exactly where your situation is. I did the Irving Fryer interview on Thursday. It will air this coming Thursday at 6 p.m. So be on look out for that. Irving Fryer, former great with the Patriots and the Dolphins and the Eagles and the Redskins. Not so great with the Redskins, but had a great career. And, we talked about Chuck Foreman should be in the Hall of Fame. I think Irving Fryer should be in the Hall of Fame. We talk a lot about, another guy who has had some extreme highs and extreme lows in his professional and personal lives, and we dive into all of that. In an hour plus. I think we went like an hour and 15 or 20 minutes. It was a long interview and it was a lot of fun. I don't have time to leave the mountain as I have important plans. We got to plan a happy hour. I promised Drew and I promised Rick. I got a lot going on over the next couple months, guys. As I've kind of alluded to, we're in the midst of a life change here as we're getting ready to sell a home that's too big for us and planning for the future, moving to a townhouse, and it's an expensive endeavor, and we're doing it without selling our house first, which is always a little stressful. And we've also got to clean this house out and get some upgrades done so that we can show it. But if we do, we should be able to have hopefully a wash. Send me a dress holding some autographs for you from the Mohawks hot stove dinner. Oh, cool. I will do that, Rick. If I forget, send me a messenger. So it's because I won't be able to, I'll probably do it right after I get done here, but I appreciate that. Next year, we're going to have you do some video for that, unless I come. Maybe I'll come myself. Have you do some video and maybe interview a couple of guys, and we'll play it on the show. That might be fun. Just quick, that badge of honor calling before me, Bill. McAvoy is a concern for the Bears. Everybody's a concern for everybody. Good stuff. Thank you, Sean. Glad you enjoyed the show. I'm glad to have you joining and participating. Please continue to do so going forward. As I said, please like and share if you're not following the page, please do so, and invite your friends as we continue to grow this audience. We've had some great feedback from guys like you. We've had a lot of new both viewers, and I know we have a lot of viewers who don't comment like yourself, and we've had a lot of new people commenting as well, which we like, because you guys are my co-hosts on a lot of my shows, and that's what I like to do, and it's fun for me to do it, and we're going to continue to do it as long as we have the time and the wherewithal to do so. Once I'm out of here, I got to figure out my studio situation, so that'll be a little bit of a challenge, but not that much. I've already got an idea. So we're glad you joined us. What's going on let me check out what's going on at the Masters here. It just came on TV. I don't think the leaders are out yet, or they might be, because they're probably playing, Kenny, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're playing, they're sending guys out both on the first and the 10th tee, and they're playing in threesomes again today. They might have gone to foursomes for all I know, because they've got to get a lot of golf in today to be able to finish this tournament up. Let's see, where's my leaderboard? I don't want him. My leaderboard. Koepka is now through 13 holes of his second round. He's got a whole nother round of golf to play today. I'm not sure they're going to get this. Well, I guess if the weather holds out, and it does not look like it's raining right now, it looks like they might get this in. They were going to have to play 18 holes. I guess normally the leaders would probably go out about 2:30. Would be my guess. Kenny, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong. But Koepka's holding a 2-shot lead over John Rahm. Hovland is second or third, I should say, at 7. Cantley having a good round to finish up his second round. Got to -6. Matsuzami is at 5. Henley at 5. Rose at 4. Neiman, Moriaki, Bennett, Shuffle. I can't say that guy's name. Patrick Reed, everybody's favorite guy to hate, at -3. Lowry at -3. There's a lot of guys in striking distance. Phil Mickelson, who got to -6 yesterday, was looking like a Mickelson of old. +2, he finished the second round. No, I'm sorry, he's +2 on the 16th hole in the third round. So nobody started round 4 yet. That'll be starting very soon, I'm sure. Not sure how they're going to figure that out. I guess they got to get through all these guys in round 2. Then they'll probably go out. Maybe they'll just go out on, maybe they won't go out first and 10th, Kenny, if they get this done in time. Let's see. Yes, Ken. Yes, do have a good day, Sean. Root for those Orioles, except when they play the Yankees. Have to finish the 3rd round first. I agree. Let's see. They're getting close, though. I mean, the leaders are on 14, so I'm sorry, on 15. So they're getting close to finishing. But I guess by now the back of this field would have started today's round, right? So they're probably going to have to use the 1st and 10th to start these guys in the 4th round, I would think. Kenny, do plants start indoors? Isn't it in the teens on the mountain? Well, he's growing some pretty hardy plants up there. All right, bye. Remember to smoke them and release the flower into the creases of your mind. Thank you, Kenny. Oh, guys, it's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun today. As always, I'm gonna wrap it up here because it's getting late and I got to get ready to go to dinner, pick up my in-laws. You guys are the best audience in podcasting. I have to tell you, the way you guys participate, the way you bust my balls, to choose my French, I love it. There's times I get a little worked up, but it's all in good fun. As Billy Packer said, here's what I'll say about me being opinionated. As Billy Packer said, I'm often wrong, but never in doubt. That's me. I'll continue to use that. There's your answer, Rick. Guys, have a great, great weekend. We will catch you on the other side. Watch for the College Sports Huddle on Wednesday night. Watch for Irving Fryer interview on Thursday. Are You Serious on Friday? And we'll be back next Sunday with the Stream of Consciousness. And in between, don't forget, Let's Talk Sports with Dan Harris, my Major League Baseball update, and who knows what else we'll be doing during the week. Guys, have a great, great, great Easter Sunday and Passover. Enjoy. Not a bad day out there.